Good afternoon. Welcome, everyone. My name is Catherine Hecht. I am the Executive Director of the Alexander Valley Film Society. Welcome to day 3,642 of Shelter in Place and focus on John Cooper, the outgoing Sundance Film Festival director and Sonoma County native or local as of late. Really excited to bring this to you today. Thank you again for joining us week after week. We've been having a lot of fun and it's been a great distraction for us and for our community just to get together and talk about things that really matter to us, used to matter to us, and hopefully will keep us connected and matter in the future. Storytelling is a big part of our lives here, and I'm coming to you live from my home office in Cloverdale. And without further ado, I'm thrilled to introduce you to my friend and outgoing Fest director, John Cooper. John, welcome.
Welcome, thank you. All the way from Sebastopol.
All the way, all the way. It's so good. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat today.
Sure, thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I believe that we have, you and I first met, or actually the only time we've met in person was through our mutual friend, Kristen Madsen.
Yes.
Who is also just a total force to be reckoned with here in Sonoma County, has put together, shaped, and put together the whole framework for Creative Sonoma, which has been a huge boon to artists and arts organizations here in Sonoma County. So I think she's watching today. Hi, Kristen. Thank you for being here.
Hi, Kristen.
And you and your partner, Jean-Louis, live in
Paul-Louis.
Paul-Louis.
Wait, right.
Sorry
it's
about
fine.
that.
It's how everybody does that.
And you're now living in Sebastopol.
Yes.
Okay. And by the way, congratulations on 30 years at Sundance.
Thank you. It was 30 years.
Did we call you like the guy with the best timing in the world?
Yeah, you could say that. I've always had good timing on these weird things like this. Even, we'll get to that later. But
we'll get to that later. But yeah, so personally, I think it's so cool that you're in Sonoma County with us now. And I read, there were tons of articles of your outgoing fest, which was a tremendous success, by the way. Congratulations.
Yeah, it was.
And all the big outlets were covering your departure. And in one of them, I think you were talking about, or maybe it was a Variety article, and you talked about all the Kenneth Cole jackets that the volunteers get every year.
Yeah.
You got a bunch of them sent over to Santa Rosa during the 2017 fires.
Yes, afterwards, because it was cold and everybody who works at Sundance who's been volunteers has like 4 or 5 of those in their closet. and you never know what to do with them. I thought, this is a good thing. And so I had them all send them to me or bring them into the LA office. And we shipped them off in big boxes. I'm still waiting to see some skateboarder high school kid wearing one. I haven't seen it, I kind of really want to see like one on the street,
the moment will come, I feel sure.
Yeah, 2011, and there were some really ugly colors, so they're going to stand out.
So you and I had a chance to chat just briefly before we got online today. And I think that one thing, the questions that have come in from our community are a little bit more focused on your experiences as a leader and a staff member of Sundance, not so much on the filmmaker side, although I'm sure, as you know, there are tons of questions about that out there. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got started at Sundance?
Yeah, it's all a fluke. Again, like my whole life is a little, fate-based, I guess. Not faith-based, fate-based. A little faith, maybe. But I actually stumbled into Sundance. I've been living in New York. I was moved from San Francisco to New York and spent 10 years there trying to get into theater and was a little disillusioned. And I came back to San Francisco on my way back to New York. I had a layover flight and they gave me money to stay over in Salt Lake. And, they gave me like $150 and I was like, I'll take it. And I met some people in a bar and they were just new to Sundance. This was like 1988. and it was all just budding. And they said, "Do you want to come back and volunteer?" And I said yes, which sounds a little weird, but I was already older then. I was past the interning volunteer age, but for some reason I just said yes. And then I ended up taking a long sabbatical from place I worked in New York and came out and did the summer labs. So, and it kind of changed my life, and then fell into the festival, and then fell up the chain, and just I keep falling upwards,
Falling upwards.
Yeah.
And it started with yes, which is, again, prescient. So how do you break down your time there? I know the last 11 years were as best director.
Right.
The first 20 years, how did they kind of break up?
Yeah, I started off in a very menial job as the guy who gets the prints in. And this was not this was not digital. This was like the prints in big cans. And that was my job, and lots of faxing and lots of, binders, faxing, and big cans. But even while I was there was only 3 of us in the office then during the festival. And I was handed a box of films that were short films. And they said, "We get these, we don't know what to do with them. If you want to watch them all and put together a program, do it." And I did that. And it turned out to be a really great program. And in that program, I think was Alexander Payne and Todd Haynes, maybe, and some other filmmakers that went on. And I realized I had this weird skill. Like, I always compare myself to a baseball scout, like where you go out, you look at the guys out in the field and go, yeah, that one's got an arm, that one's got talent, that one's going someplace. And that's kind of how I did it. It's very instinctual, I guess. I have good instincts. I'm not an academic in any way. I mean, probably maybe a little more now. I've grown into being an academic, but I'm not a film historian or anything. I just watch films and kind of know what's going to work for general public too. And I'm a builder, so I try to just build the festival by whatever the filmmakers needed. You try to build that, and then it just gets better because you're serving the needs of people. And that's kind of the trick that I use this whole time.
That's amazing.
So then anyway, I was moved on to programmer, and then I was director of programming, which is a person that just deals with films for I think 9 years. And then when Jeff Gilmore, who was director of the festival, left, I stepped in. Well, I didn't step in. I had to kind of fight my way in just a little bit. And then I took over, in 2000. I think 2010 was my first film as director, where you go from being in control of just the film part to actually the whole event. So you kind of scope widens, and you start to think about things like lines and the experience of, and I really like that part. I really like thinking of the experience that people have and how to make that better, how to make it fun, what to do for filmmakers, all that kind of stuff.
Well, that's what I was just going to pick up on. A lot of what you just said, like philosophically speaking, I really resonates with me quite deeply. And
because you do this all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
All the time, right?
But you talked about, you started with your filmmakers, which is so interesting. Right. I think some people end up in that position from the other direction, like customer service management.
Right.
But coming from the filmmaker side, I mean, and Sundance has a huge reputation of being filmmaker, like really celebrating the filmmakers.
Right.
So how was that organic to you? Did you just like the people?
Yeah, and it was we consider ourselves a discovery festival. It's kind of like you're a festival, you're almost a cultural festival, because you're bringing culture into a community and building on that. We are more international, or Sundance is, and so we are more discovery of new talent. So we were always in that game, where Cannes is launching on a global scale, and then but we are discovery and not launch. And so we're always looking for the new faces, the Ryan Cooglers, the Miranda Julys, anybody who's made something really interesting, and Damien Giselle, and really launching careers. And that's how we made our reputation, which is why all these younger filmmakers want to come to Sundance, because they know that there's this path to glory, through Sundance. And that was kind of what we took over. It was like our strength. It was our power base.
So, John, would you consider yourself a tastemaker?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Yeah, I
Do you
guess
think,
so.
do you think that that intuition has always been inside of you and that it was just nurtured over the years, or do you think you grew into it?
I mean, I know that I did. You do when you watch as many films as I have in my
Mhm.
life, which I look back and go, wow, that's a lot of hours. Not not wasted per se, but it's a lot of hours, because I've watched an incredible. I mean, used to watch close to 500 films a year, which is a lot. And you do hone a skill. It's like a weird mental thing. I really fell into. I love those books by Malcolm Gladwell,
Mm,
like Blink and those
mhm.
things where you already know the answer. It's the time your brain has to take to make it a logical decision. I try to erase that. I try to make it so it's like this film's going to work. I just know it is. I don't question it or need a lot of um, feedback or metrics to make decisions. And you have to make a lot of decisions really fast. You know.
Yeah. Do
Yeah.
you have, you can tell me you don't want to talk about this. Do you have any kind of spiritual practice?
No. I was like, do I? It's like, I
Do
should know this.
I-
If you don't know if you have a spiritual practice, like, no, I'm sort of spiritual though. I mean, I do believe that the universe. I've had too many weird flukes in my life
Mm,
that I've gotten to a place where I wanted to do something, and then once you actually say it out loud what you want, it comes very quickly. You know, you can say you're blessed or whatever.
yeah.
There was one point, it was a very fluky one where, because for a while too, I also ran the Gay and Lesbian Film Festival in Los Angeles at the same time I was doing Sundance.
Wow.
And I took off that summer and I was kind of took it off. I go, I don't know anything about the gay community. I'm so disconnected. And LA, I was sort of new to LA. I go, I want to learn that community. And so to probably volunteer in something else or do something else. And the next day they called me from the festival and they just kind of said, we're doing this and your name came up. Are you interested? It's just like, oh my God, it's just like once I said it kind of to myself, then it happens. Um,
Wow.
yeah. So,
I'm IDing with you all over the place. It's so crazy. Um, so I wanted to talk a little bit or ask you a little bit about those weeks, months leading up to you taking the helm. What was it like
okay.
for you personally in that moment? Were you dazzled by the idea? Was it work, just, work as usual? What was it like?
Well, I mean over 11 years ago.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
well, Jeff Gilmore, who was at the festival, wasn't really good at being director of the festival. He was really director of programming. So
Mm,
in some ways, I was already becoming fascinated with all that other stuff that really wasn't my job. It was his job, but he was doing my job. And so that kind of just happened. And so when it came over, it's like, I've already been doing this job. There's not really a lot. I mean,
mm,
I would do a lot of the press because he didn't want to do it. I did a lot of budgeting, like the bigger picture, like what you're going to give up to do something else, all that, because that's really what budgeting is. Not, it's like, where are you going to spend the money? You got this much money. What are you going to do? How do you make it go? So I'd already been doing a lot, and I've been running the kind of the team, and I can't say enough about them, the team that actually programs the festival, because it's not one person. And I was kind of already their ringleader. And, you know, I say this in the nicest way, but Jeff wasn't the most social guy. So I was kind of like the social face with the staff too. So I was like the guy that was the nice guy front to all this stuff. And it was not really the nicest guy, but I had to be that. And I'm not an optimist either, but all of a sudden I had to be an optimist too. It's like, okay, I will play all these, roles to get this job. So, but
don't you think?
it was a financial crisis, if you remember. It was
Yeah,
a scary moment.
yeah. We're actually going to get to that in a second. Do you think that your theater background has served you in this
Yes.
capacity?
Yeah, especially that whole notion of working with people and getting together for a common thing. I mean, that's what I loved about theater. The, it is the show must go on, all those tacky movies and stuff, but they are real. It's like you're
Yeah.
working with other people to create something beautiful. And I really love that part of it, especially when you're working with really talented people. So I really love that. So that's what drew me to it. I'm not the isolation of watching the films, which is became more isolating because we didn't do it as much together,
Mhm.
in this new day and age. You divide and watch movies and get back together and talk about them. But that got a little hard sometimes. But I really like that social thing of everybody making something together. So I got that from the theater. Plus, I think just being like very opinionated. I think theater people tend to talk a lot about. I mean, film people do too, but I almost felt more in theater like, is that a good play? You go see a play and discuss at great length whether it was good or not. Yeah, so probably a little of that argumentative, creative arguing from the theater as well.
Yeah. It's all good. And one of the things that I am struck by in your career, and to hear you tell it, just, on the research I've done and just the little bit I've gotten to talk to you in person, is this curiosity, a little bit like, things falling, just kind of coming to you and falling in your lap here and there, but then also this insatiable curiosity for uh, a different story, a different way of telling it, a different lens, a different way
Right.
of looking at things. And that kind of brings me organically, interestingly enough, to a clip I want to share with you that I don't think you've seen for a long time.
Probably not.
Um, and we need to give a little background. So, when about the time that you became the festival director, you and a bunch of colleagues, including Connie White, who is a friend of ours and our film booker, both for the
Yeah.
festival and the theater up here.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And she says hi, by the way. She's the one who
Oh,
sent me this footage.
okay.
And you and some like-minded colleagues, and they came to you and kind of helped you get, make this idea a priority. But
Yeah.
the Art House Project, can you talk to us a little bit about the formation of that?
Actually, we went like we kind of thought it was our 25th anniversary of the festival, I think, and we wanted to do something, and we kind of looked around and go like, after us, where's the independent spirit? Where do these films live? Who's out there? And I knew a few, there are always these kooky theater owners, out there. And I met a lot of them, and I knew them. I go, but they don't seem to be talking to each other at all. And it was really one of those things that dawned on us, like they need best practices. They need to form a coalition because they're all complaining about being screwed over by this company or that. I go, but if they hold together, they might have strength. I didn't know what we were doing, but it was Connie who gave me the names. I go, give me the top 10, who's out there, who's eager to do this. And we put together this list of people and just basically just did a lunch at Sundance and said, even I walked into that lunch, I go, and somebody said, well, what's the agenda? I go, I have no idea. We just started the lunch and started talking and made them talk. And it turned out it's like everybody was just thinking of themselves in isolation, and they realized there was a power to joining together. And they did. And we kind of carried it for like, I think 2 or 3 years. And then they said, well, now what are you going to do? I go, nope. It's like, what are you going to do? It's yours. I got you together. It's not my job to make you guys become a coalition, from lack of a better word. So,
Mhm.
and they kind of took it on. Russ, I remember, led a lot of that for the Michigan theater. Because it's a big old theater, and he kind of had it down, and he just collected people, and it grew fast. And, we helped them whenever we could. And then it became its own thing, which actually I'm very proud of that project,
You should be.
because it used to be
Yeah,
called
but
the Art House Project, and then it became the Art House Convergence. So, yeah.
so the clip we're about to watch, you're giving the keynote. You've just taken the helm at the Sundance Film Fest. It's 2009. So it's 2 days before your festival.
Yes.
You're meeting with this group of misfits, these misfit art house people
I know.
in Salt Lake City.
Yeah.
And you're giving the keynote address.
Okay.
Okay. And this comes from Joe Zena. You might remember Joe from the Coolidge.
Right.
And I believe I'm guessing this is his cell phone that we have. But right before the clip that we're going to play, this is where you tell the art house people, you don't know it, but you're sexy.
Oh, that's right.
You're sexy. Like what you do, what you're doing is like it's taking what's happening here and making it live a whole life kind of thing.
Yeah, this is something I would do. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then I think you said, oh, I think we've made you uncomfortable, which I'm enjoying, or something like that. But anyway, here's the clip. Let's take a listen.
All right. Oh my God. What a pushy little bastard that guy is.
But sure, you're allowed to think that, but I think the seed that you were planting, which really speaks to not only this moment, but the moment that we were in the headwinds of the recession back then. We're in the headwinds of the recession right now, a new recession right now. And something that we have suspected as an organization, not having the pedigree, the educational experience, like the academic experience that you mentioned, but something that this collective group of people up here realized was that being able to connect to one another using film and movies was one of the most important things we could do for our community as a community.
Huh.
And so now here you are, you're
part of that community. Yeah.
And what is it going to look like? I mean, that's the question on everybody's mind. Will Sundance happen in 2021? What are festivals going to look like? What are art houses going to look like?
I know.
So in your crystal ball, can you please give us all of those answers?
I think I tend to be a little more optimistic, like I said, and not so reactionary, although it means you're probably gonna have to do a lot with less money, but that was the early years of Sundance too. It's like I was used to that part.
Yeah.
I think, it's so funny because we're talking I'm kind of getting a little tired of people talking with such drastic measures, because 2 years from now, and I do get that people are predicting, but we've only been doing this for really 6 weeks, kind of. It seems like it's been 2 years already, but it's like Sundance, we are planning Sundance, not we, they, because I've been called into meetings, but I'm not driving this, so I'm still sitting out here. But Sundance is going to happen. They're opening submissions. That is going to happen. Now, even with submissions, because that's a big part of what we do, and we get thousands of them,
Mhm.
is it going to be feast or famine this year? We're not really sure, because all those other festivals also stopped. So there might be a lot more out there. There might be a lot less. It's impossible to know on that front. They're trying to get ahead of that. And then trying to build something that is right, but also, oh, I hate when people talk like this, but but it is a great opportunity to try some really crazy stuff that's new,
Sure.
because everybody will say, try it. We don't know what's going on. Where I was getting stuck in my last years at Sundance. If I wanted to change anything, there was so much nostalgia around things. There was so
Mm.
much, there was so much, afraid of change, that sometimes it's like, oh my God, this is really hard. I was always trying to build up the second half of the festival, and nobody would move off the first half, including every event from the Sundance Institute. It started off like, oh, we'll move to the final Thursday. And then before you know it, everybody's on the Saturday and Sunday again, all overlapping, all overcrowded, all over people complaining about how there's too much to do. It's just like, you couldn't make those. They needed a wake up call, but you couldn't get it done, So
Yeah.
I'm trying to talk the new regime, who I love actually, because I've worked with them, but into really thinking that way. It's like, go for it, don't be brave, take a risk. It's so funny, like back to storytelling too. I mean, it's a a quote I use a lot, and it's really simple, but and in this day and age, is theories divide us. If you talk about theories, they divide us, but stories unite us. And there's hardly
Mm.
any really difficult. I learned this a lot during the gay marriage campaigns, because if you talk about the theory of gay marriage, is it against the Bible, all of this stuff, you could get, even like the church ladies would be talking like, oh, absolutely no, it's impossible, blah blah blah. I go, you're a hairdresser, he's gay, right? Oh yeah, we love it, we love Billy. Oh yeah, Billy, we love Billy. I go, don't you want Billy to be happy? Don't you want him to get married and find someone and get married? Oh yeah, we talk about this all the time. We want him to be married. I go, well, there it is. That's the story. Your story is personal and local, and that's how you have to think about it. Not in this bigger scheme. It's like the stories of people will change you, and I've been changed many, many times by even the movies we've shown. A new perspective, especially on things like poverty in America, and different cultural experiences of people. When you see it in a story, it becomes very real very fast, and that's the power.
Speaking of change, I want to jump in here and tell you that one of our local filmmakers, Kim Carroll, wrote in to say, "Hey Cooper, great to see you. Sundance Lab changed everything for me. Miss the
Oh.
Al Bar. Cheers."
Oh, that's sweet. The
Yeah,
Al Bar. I know. Will we ever be able to drink in public again? Um,
I assure you, you will.
I know. I know. Um, yeah, but I don't know what this whole thing about social distancing theaters. I don't quite see that one, how it's going to work. The financials of that are already kind of ridiculous.
I know. Yeah.
You already so, you already know on a Saturday matinee it's going to be social distances, because not very many people are there. But then at night you need all the rest of those people, and I don't know how that's going to work. It's yeah, I mean, you just hope that there's more understanding of the disease, so it gets clear like what you can do and what you can't do. Speculation right now is almost just impossible. It's almost just a waiting game. It's hard. It's hard
Totally.
not to just wait. It's hard to sit back. We're Americans. We don't like that. But but that's what we're gonna have to do. Just kind of wait it out.
Yeah, so let's pivot for just a second and talk about a different kind of waiting game
Uh-huh.
segue.
Uh-huh.
Um, you have seen your fair share of controversy at Sundance, but perhaps one of the more meaningful ways that manifest was in diversity of filmmakers and film and storytelling. I put two and two together earlier this morning that Birth of a Nation was 2016. That
Right.
happened on the precipice of the Me Too movement.
Right.
And then, of course, the Me Too movement and, Harvey Weinstein and his legacy and legion of people. Can you talk a little bit about what that's been like for you from your perspective?
Yeah, because, and even, Sundance came into those stories, like this happened at Sundance. And it's like, of course, you look back, like we had I had no idea, and I don't work in, the weird thing is I never worked in the real film business, so those stories were always kind of alien to me. And then when you start to hear the stories, it's like, wow, of course that's true. Of course that's true. And you feel guilty for not doing something, but we just accepted, stuff that we accepted back then was very bizarre, even stuff I accepted in my life of, as a gay man, I'm the first, I think I'm still the only gay or lesbian director of one of the major festivals, like in history. Like when you look at Cannes, Venice, Berlin, not the smaller festivals. There's another level under that are really big, important festivals, San Francisco, etc., London. But those big ones, kind of like 5 big ones, they've never had anybody gay or lesbian. And those guys, they shunned me just a bit. They just didn't know how to talk to me. I wasn't part of their little club. I was kind of like the youngest old guy of the generation of directors of festivals. I was the youngest of that kind of wave, and kind of didn't fit in at all. But yeah, I had a lot of experiences, and doing Outfest as well. People telling you, like I was thrown out of offices at film markets from time to time, just because I was pesky, and I knew a film was, I knew a film was gay, and they'd be telling me that's not a gay film. It's like, well, yeah, it is. You can call it whatever you want, but if two guys are in love and making out in your movie, we consider it a gay film. We want to see it. So
right.
So I had some of that on my own. It's like, wow, even put up with from time to time. I was told once that, I didn't understand the movie because I wasn't a real man. It's just like,
Jeez
like,
Louise.
I know this is somebody actually, probably.
Oh boy.
And yeah, stuff like that. You just let it go. I forget how I reacted to that. It's like, I think I said something really rude.
Good. But John, isn't it funny too that like you have this experience where you can acknowledge your role as a tastemaker, but part of being a tastemaker is having an opinion and a vision that does not mirror that of other people. It's being a leader into a new field or a new way of thinking, and that's has its own inherent challenges.
Yeah, the good news is I didn't have to build my own power. The power just got built, by us choosing films and choosing films that maybe other people wouldn't. There are a lot of films that made us famous that other festivals turned down. You probably don't. Precious, that film Precious.
I love the story about,
it's a tough film, and it's like it could be controversial, when you think about it deeper, but it was just so moving. How could you not? Precious. There were a few others along the way. I'm kind of wondering if did Birth of a Nation, that became more controversial after. The funny thing about that one, it was such a hit at Sundance, a mega hit, and how even the critics sort of like backpedaled with their opinion on it. It's like, you can't do that. You don't get to backpedal. If you thought this was a brilliant film once, well, you're stuck with it no matter what the director did,
Yeah. And what do you think about that? Because there's certainly been plenty of examples of this in the last 5 years, where we're learning that some of our most cherished directors have really behaved very poorly.
I know. It's like, it was like he was the tip of the iceberg, and he even admitted it. It was on his. He had talked about it. It was on his Facebook page that he was. So it was a lot of weird information, and it was really one of those times too. And this is what does scare me, is how that news travels so fast and in a non-qualified way that it becomes rumor really fast, and those are powerful rumors. I even putting together the festival, I really got to a point where I really concentrated so much more on what those first 2 days of the festival are, because people will be making opinions on your festival right away and posting it, and you're like, oh, there's nothing good here. It's like you've seen 10 films out of 200 and there's nothing good here. It's just like, that used to make me crazy.
Worse.
What made me a little crazy too in recent years is sort of like, you have to pay attention to diversity and to numbers, but we already had, but we did it organically, which we didn't show films because they were directed by women or directed by an African-American director. We showed them because they were fresh. It was organic, that these stories looked a little different and were told a little different and were about things that we didn't know. So immediately they're more interesting to you. And that's what my staff was drawn to, not like do the little quota marks, like how many you're going to have of this and that, So that was something very real for us. I didn't want to make it look ever like, oh, this just dawned on us one day, we've got to step up. It's like, we've been stepping up, and we're going to keep stepping up, but we're going to do it that way. Still, I was kind of depressed in my last season. The women directors, still, of the American films submitted, it was only 16% were directed by women. Which I thought, after all the noise, it was going to go more to like a third, or like maybe 45% or 30% were going to be directed by women. And still, that hasn't happened. And then you look at, all right, why is that happening? And you go deeper into who gets money for what, who gets trusted with the camera, who gets, but that's not, you can't take on everything, because that's not what I do. I look at finished product,
Right.
Still the lowest percentage of a demographic group is still Latinx, Latinos. That's still the lowest amount. This is American films, and you think, like, why is that? What's that about? There's such a population, but somehow it's not happening on that front yet. But I know a lot of people are concentrating on it now. But anyway, you can go into a black hole talking about this stuff,
Yeah, one of the things that I read, again, in these exit interview pieces that you did, couldn't tell you which one, but you mentioned how moving "Call Me by Your Name" was, to include that in the festival. And not only was it a win to be able to premiere it there,
right,
but that the storytelling of that particular film really got you on a personal level. And I think you even name checked Michael Stuhlbarg, who is one of the most fabulous actors on the planet.
Yes, and the next year I put him on the jury. I was so in love with him. He was like, he had to deal with a lot of love energy from me. Just like, he was like, okay, guy, calm down. I know you think I'm good, but
That's awesome.
But yeah, just getting a European film, because it was always harder to get European films. We're known for being American, and that is kind of a market that we've kind of wrapped up a little tighter. But to get that, but Luca Guadagnino had been to Sundance before, and he was smart. He knew that putting that in front of a European audience, they were going to look at like straight art without it being commercial. And he didn't want that. He wanted it to be a film that moved people. And that's what you get at Sundance. You get that proof. It's like, we're putting it in front of these people, and it tends to be a really great audience for proving the emotion in films. And that's something that's greatly overlooked. Just emotion sells. Connection and emotion in films is what I look for.
I'm
Yeah,
with
that
you.
was and so that was good. And then he brought it to us that it played so well. And that whole monologue that the dad has with the son is probably the best acted and one of the best directed things I've ever and written things I've ever seen. You know,
Mm,
you know.
I don't disagree. That is, I mean, yeah,
I
he,
hear it's right from the book, like almost word for word.
yeah,
So kudos to him as well.
golly. Yeah, I saw him act for the first time in Angels in America when he was a senior at Juilliard.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you just, I mean, I never forgot who he was. He was so
Yeah.
good. A couple of people have piped on to just say hey and send a little love. Next Door Comics, which is the comic shop up here in Cloverdale.
Oh yeah.
And my husband says hi. And Jennifer Kern Weiss. Cooper, miss you guys. Hope to see you soon. And yeah, I wanted to get back to the challenge now for you. You have so you have like a year and a half left on a contract.
Yes.
And your role at this point is, are you laying the brickwork of your institutional knowledge, basically?
A little bit. We built this. It was actually 2 years ago we first started talking about it, that like I'm getting tired of this, and I didn't want to stay in there forever and just become, all the staff hated me as the old guy, who had the stories like we tried this once, or Sundance is this. And so we built it so I would be there for a whole year for a director, because I know when you've been working on a festival for so long, you there's so many little things that you forget that you even do. And so it's like, oh my God, so that so I'm on total call with Tabitha Jackson, who's now the new director of the festival. And for Kim Hutani, she just took over 2 years ago as director of programming after Trevor Groth, who was like my right-hand man for 20 years, who's staying at my house right now.
I was gonna
Probably illegal, but he brought his family up, and he just happens to be the executive producer of Tiger King.
Oh
So
my gosh, what a fun time for him.
I almost said, Trevor, do you want to come on this thing with me? Because there's gonna be more questions about Tiger King than there are gonna be about Sundance. So where was I going with all that? Somewhere. Yeah. So
The bridge.
and then I had other projects too. There were some pretty serious projects. I mean, since this is such a small group, we were building a building in Park City, which was a big endeavor. And since I kind of know the city up there and I know what we need and I've done the labs, I was sort of driving the programming representation from that building. So that was going to be my job. And also we were doing one more. We've done already Sundance London and Sundance Hong Kong. We were working on Sundance Mexico City, which is the next spot. And so I was deep into that, but now all these have been sort of put on hold.
Why?
Well, because, yeah, why? For all those reasons. So we'll get back to that. So I had other things to do, as well, but also to be on hand for any questions, and also help with, like you do. You probably have a strong donor base of people that are really committed, donor or supporter base, let's say, even with time and all that stuff. And a lot of them knew me very well. We didn't want it to be like, oh, he's gone, I'm sad, now I'm going to go away.
Right.
It was my job as a sort of like keep them, interested. So I'm going to be around at the festival and having things to do, and keep that community activated and engaged. And I'm basically running the new alumni program,
Nice.
which is kind of helping with that too. So it's like things that make very much sense without having to throw an event every year.
Yeah.
Because like I started to say, I'm just a wedding planner. I'm just a high class 10-day wedding planner. And, I'll lay in bed between December 15th festival and you just remember details and like, oh God, I got to remember that. I got to remember, did I check on that? And that's the part I was just tired of. I was just done,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, and now you have experience from the Sebastopol Doc Fest to take back, no?
Oh yes, I do. I
Surprise,
was just,
Sebastopol, he's there.
I was just a volunteer though, a lowly volunteer.
It's good. It's good. It's very humbling, I'm sure.
It was fun.
That's awesome. But that it, I'm IDing with you all over the place. It's the devil is in the details, and that is certainly what it's about when it comes to fest time. The last question.
They're a lot harder than anybody knows.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
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 For sure.
Yes.
And I think that's why, kind of going back to the keynote address, I mean, you really spoke to something. You said to that crowd, I didn't really know who you were until recently. And now, there's now a whole, now out of the Art House Convergence has come the Film Festival Alliance. And, you have festival organizers. We're meeting on the weekly right now to try and figure out how to support one another, how to collaborate in ways that will keep us all afloat for as long as possible, if not through, this challenging time. You mentioned this project, like knowing the city, and I wanted to ask you a little bit about that and playing the politics of Salt Lake, of Park City, Utah. I read a while ago about some pushback that was happening with funding on the state level, and I'm not savvy enough or well-read enough to know exactly what the outcome of all of that was, but what was that like navigating for you?
It's just I have people that navigate it a lot. I'm brought in like the talent, a lot of times. Like, come in and be yourself. Sometimes I go, come in and be funny. It's just like, there's nothing worse than that. I go, I can come in and be inappropriate. Is that what you want? And they're like, no. No, not that side. Not that side of your funny, the other side. But yeah, we had to, you had to force them to step up because the amount of economic development we brought to that state is huge.
Yeah.
And we weren't getting anywhere near the funding that we should, and we still aren't, for what we do, because we were always just like that outsider group. I go, yeah, but we are employing here. We bring tourism. It's a big chunk of money. It's a big, important chunk. I don't even know what the numbers are. I can never remember the numbers. That's why I'm a horrible salesman. But it's like millions of dollars, millions to that state. And you kind of have to, in the nicest way possible, keep reminding them of that and bringing them on board, and entertaining, just always reminding them, how important you are to the party,
You need a Kristen Madsen.
Exactly. She's a Utah girl. Did you know that?
Yes, I did.
Because we met in Utah. She got out and I stayed. She became a California girl, and and I was actually the California boy, but I can go back to that now. So,
well, that's terrific. Want to gear towards wrapping up here. What life for you now? Obviously, you're quarantined, or so kind of quarantined.
Yeah.
But, day to day, I know you're taking a lot of meetings and stuff. What is what's on tap for you next?
You mean at Sundance
or in general?
I don't know. It's like I'm at retirement age, so by the time I'm done with Sundance, I'll be 65, and don't you get to not have to do anything? But I'll probably do stuff. I have some art projects that I do. I'm kind of a weird little. I have some art stuff. Oh, be quiet. And getting used to what the pace of my life was. A lot. It was a lot of traveling, a lot of that, and that was wearing on me. it's so funny. I was so afraid of giving that up. Like I wasn't going to be at Cannes this year. I wasn't going to be, at all these places that I usually am. I was feeling like, am I going to feel awful? And then all of a sudden, poof, nobody's there.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, again, divinely protected. So yeah, it is getting used to it. I'm probably going to find something to do up here. That seems fun and worthy. I think sometimes the best job for me, I want to become like a maitre d in a restaurant up here.
Perfect.
2 nights a week. So at least I have to get dressed up and get out of the house, 2 nights a week. And the thing I'm most afraid about is being away from young people, like I had a young staff, and the whole staff of the Institute was fairly young, and just, they keep you so engaged and in the know. And I'm thinking, oh my God, what's going to happen? I'm going to miss that,
Mm.
and I'm also going to miss even though I complained about it, and I feel like sometimes I don't need to talk seriously about a film again for the rest of my life, but I will miss our meetings of my staff, that we would get together and argue about the films and what we're going to show. And it is fun and it's engaging. I really like that group and being in that, and arguing where you're not really arguing, you're just trying to make points to get to the best festival you can get. So,
Mm.
so we'll see. I have to find another argumentative job here in Sonoma County. I'm sure one exists.
I was going to say, how do you feel about government?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, this has been amazing. I can't thank you enough for taking the time and chat with us. Obviously, there's so many of us who are big fans of what you've been working on for a long time, and what you've contributed to it. So
you're a part of it, though. That's the whole
Yeah.
thing. You're all a part of it. It's a weird, big, unformed movement of sorts. This whole idea of supporting. There's no more powerful storytelling device than film right now. So that's it.
Agreed. I mean,
counting TV in that, but
yeah. I mean, here we are. We've been able to, we've done a pivot virtually and been able to keep connected in ways. So yeah, this is just tremendous. Okay, before I let you go, we have a lightning round.
Okay.
Oh no, where's my sheet of paper? Here we go. Okay. John Cooper.
Yeah.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Woods or beach?
Beach.
Pizza or pasta?
Pasta.
Favorite class in high school?
Art.
And Lord of the Rings or Avengers?
Ooh, Avengers. I'm not good with fantasy at all. I'm more like Hunger Games.
Okay. Hunger Games.
I like it when it's like dystopian America, not another world that's made up, because that's too easy for me. I don't even like Harry Potter. It's like, no, that's all made up. I want to see America in its worst state fighting for itself, Hunger Games.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Sure.
And so next week we have on Focus On Brett Parker and Sarah Reimers, Pixar animators, and Sarah Reimers is actually working for the Walt Disney Company right now.
Wow.
Celebrating Mother's Day.
Wow.
We're going to talk about women, films, filmmaking, mothering, parenting, all the good stuff.
Wow.
So, hopefully we'll see everybody back with us next Sunday. John Cooper, I wish you the best. I hope I get to see you more often now.
Yes, exactly. When this is over.
Yeah, when this is over.
Yeah.
Tell everybody we said hi, stay safe, and thank you everybody for joining us. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Au revoir.